Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2022 Rivian R1T. Now, production of this car started in 2021. It's the pickup truck variant of the R1 with an SUV variant coming in this game in just under 2 weeks. That's called the R1S. So yeah, T for truck, S for SUV. And yeah, though this is a car that features plenty of luxury, this is also a car that has plenty of off-road features and capability, as it has air suspension that allows adjustment of ride height up to 14.4 inches, while it also has a wading depth in water of up to 43.1 inches. It's also got double wishbone suspension at the front and multi-link suspension at the rear to make for better handling. And on top of that, it's also got torque vectoring, which basically means that if you are turning right and you are losing grip, then the power will be forced into the right hand side wheels and limited on the left hand side wheels to basically drag you around the corner. So in terms of handling, it's very good, which again is despite the fact that it's obviously quite high riding, although obviously you can lower it down to make it a bit more sporty. But at the end of the day, it's still got, off-road tyres and the like, so even though despite all of that, it's quite a sporty kind of vehicle. It's also got plenty of power. It's got 835 horsepower, 908 pounds-feet of torque from its 4 electric motors, plus 135 kilowatt-hour of batteries. Now, it initially came with a 180 kilowatt-hour battery pack, but that has since been rescinded. Now, all that basically offered you was 50 extra miles in range, as it could do 400 miles, but this, with 135 kilowatt hour, can still do 350 miles, which, yeah, that is really good, especially for a car that weighs 6,936 pounds. Obviously, that will also depend on how much you are packing into this car, or how much you are towing, because it can tow up to 11,000 pounds, and obviously the more weight you add to the car, that's going to reduce the overall range of the car, but it's still more than likely going to be able to do 150-200 miles on a single charger, even if you do load it up, so that is mightily impressive. In terms of the looks, I really rather quite like it. It's not conventional in terms of the looks at the front, but neither is it ugly, and you're certainly not going to mistake the car for any other kind of vehicle from the front. Side profile wise, obviously it does look like pretty much every other pickup truck, so that is a bit conventional, but around the rear I do like the full width rear lights, which also look pretty nice, and yeah, with Rivian spelled out, again, you're not going to mistake it for another pickup truck. And yeah, in terms of practicality, this makes the BMW iX that we've previously reviewed look archaic, because yeah, it's got plenty of room on the inside. I like the use of different materials. You got your wood, you got your plastics, you got your rubber mats and the like, but you've also got nice screens. You got a conventional steering wheel rather than that stupid hexagonal one that was in the BMW, which I really don't see the point of. And then you've also got a decent amount of room in the rear, although not quite as much room as I might expect, to be honest, but there's still a decent amount of room. Then, as per usual, you've got your pickup bed, as you can see. Now, this has 2 electrical outputs in the bed for any of your electrical needs, and there's also space underneath the bed floor, so if you want a spare wheel in there, even if you do have a spare wheel in there, there's still extra room besides that. And what is unique to this car, and something I've never seen on any other car, is the gear tunnel, which is basically where you put your gear. So you can put your sports gear, your camping gear. Rivian sells a whole ton of camping gear extras, like stoves and sink and everything like that can fold neatly into this gear tunnel. It runs the full width of the car, so that's 1.7 meters long, so yeah, that is plenty of space going on in there, and that also features an electrical output. You've also got a torch in your driver's side door, that little grey circle there, that is a torch, and the front as well, which again offers more space. Also has an electrical output in it, and for some reason a drainage port. Don't know why, don't know what you're going to be doing in that to get water in there, but regardless, it kind of has a drainage port. And yeah, all of that just makes this car a lot more inventive. It's a lot more versatile than other EVs, especially like of the BMW iX, which not only looks worse, but it's less powerful, has less torque, and yeah, has nowhere near the level of practicality of this car. Now, granted, most people in the likes of the US don't really use their pickup beds. There was a survey out not long ago that said like about 90% of people only use their pickup bed fully once a year. So yeah, that's probably the least practical part of this car, but if you are going to be using the bed, then this is going to be a highly practical car. And if you don't want the bed at the end of the day, you can get the R1S, which, like I said, is the SUV variant, which comes with 2 extra seats, and yeah, it's completely enclosed on the rear, which we'll also be looking at in less than a couple of weeks' time. But nonetheless, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. So much like the BMW iX, this doesn't have all that much in the way of top speed, despite having way more in the way of power, but nonetheless, let's see what it can do on this drag strip, and then we'll go on a little bit of an off-road course, and then we'll also go around a track, because yeah, like I said, this is an incredibly versatile car. It's able to do practically everything because of all the different kind of features that it's got, and the fact that it uses all of its electrical aspects really rather nicely. So that is the top speed, 127 miles an hour, a couple of miles an hour faster than the BMW, but obviously nowhere near as quick as you might expect for a car with this level of horsepower. But that's a one limit with this car and with electrical cars in general, is that their top speed, unless they have another gear or they've got, you know, even higher revving electric motors, then yeah, their top speeds are never going to be all that great. But you know, it does get there really rather quickly, and at the end of the day, look what this car can do. It's got all of this weight, it's got all of this power, and yet it's also able to deal with all the off-road capability that a normal pickup truck might well have to deal with. And yeah, it deals with everything really rather nicely. It does surprise me just how good this car actually is in terms of its handling. Not just on-road, but also off-road as well, because it's easy for a pickup truck or an off-road vehicle to be good in one or the other area, but it's not particularly overly common for a vehicle of this type to be brilliant in both areas. But here, because of the torque vectoring, because of the air suspension, because of the suspension setups as well, with the double wishbones at the front and the multi-link at the rear, it's just really, really nice to drive. And even though the stat says it's worse than the BMW, for my money this is actually better than the BMW in terms of handling. So yeah, let's get to the track and see what we can do there. But yeah, fantastic car, and to be honest, it makes the BMW look really archaic, not just in terms of the way that this is laid out, but just in terms of other elements as well, like the fact that it's got plenty of power, it's got plenty of range, the looks as well. BMW ultimately just feels like the i3 from 10 years ago, but bigger with more power and more speed. That's just basically what it feels like. It just feels very old-fashioned in terms of as far as EVs come. And obviously EVs like this aren't, you know, massively old, but you know, 10 years is a long time when it comes to this kind of technology and the like. And i3 does look a lot more archaic than other small cars like it. So yeah. And the iX ultimately comes across like that as far as I'm concerned. Just looks very old-fashioned. So yeah, even though the stat says on handling that it's worse than the iX, I do feel it's better, but the braking is actually better in terms of the stat, and it does also feel better. And as you can see, the off-road capability is pretty good. Launch and acceleration are really rather great, and the top speed is decent as well. So yeah, 52% of the weight is at the front, 48% at the rear, so I think that's actually slightly better than the BMW maybe. Let's have a look. Yeah, 48% at the front, 52% at the rear, which is why the BMW seems to oversteer at times without you really expecting it, because it's got more weight at the rear. Whereas this, despite being a pickup truck, has more weight at the rear, which is surprising. Pickup trucks generally have little in the way of weight over the rear end, but that's probably because the batteries are running along the length of the car pretty much to make for a skateboard platform, which is why the R1S is basically the same car. It's just got a different body. But nonetheless, let's see what this car sounds like on this track, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, probably makes a little bit more noise than the BMW, but that's no problem as far as I'm concerned. I like EVs that make a bit of noise, and yeah, the handling is way better. Like I said earlier, it's just, there's no snap oversteer like the BMW had, and the torque vectoring, you can feel it working, although obviously you do need to keep the power on for the torque vectoring to work. It's not going to work if you lift off and going around a corner, but if you keep the throttle down, it will pull you around the corner accordingly. And yeah, acceleration is pretty solid as well. 0 to 60 is dealt with in 3.3 seconds. 0 to 100 is dealt with in 9 seconds flat. And like we've seen already, it can do 127 mph at the top end. So yeah, quite frankly, the top speed is only the real weak point of this car. Everything else is just pretty much bang on. Obviously, it's not a lightweight by any means, so you do have to take into account that kind of, you know, that kind of weight. But it does have plenty. It has roll kind of suspension. It alters to keep the roll of the car as level as possible. So even though it does have a lot of weight and it is obviously quite a high riding car with a reasonable high centre of gravity, it's nowhere near as bad as it would be if it was a conventional combustion engine. So at the end of the day, you've got all of those cells right at the bottom of the car. There's about 7,700 of those cells at the bottom of the car. So yeah, even though it does look quite like a high riding car, high centre of gravity, though high, certainly higher than, you know, a saloon car or a hot hatchback would be, it's nowhere near as high as it would otherwise be if it was a conventional combustion engine vehicle. So yeah, glorious car really. Really glad Rivian have been added to this game, latest car manufacturer to be added to this game. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing what the R1S is going to be like. That does have the same power and torque as this car, so, and yeah, the underneath is all going to be the same as well in terms of the suspension and the torque vectoring and the like. But I'm interested in seeing what the car is overall going to be like to drive, because it might well be a little bit different, being having more weight potentially over the rear end with all of the enclosed rear bodywork and the extra seats and the like. So yeah, not sure what that's going to be like, but hopefully it will be as good as to drive as this, because yeah, overall this is a fantastic car. And yeah, covers all of the bases as far as I'm concerned. It's good off-road, it's good on-road, it's even fairly decent around a track, it's quick in a straight line, it's got good acceleration, it's really practical, and yeah, it's got uses beyond just the usual day-to-day running around as well. So yeah, overall a fantastic vehicle, one I highly recommend you getting, and it's easier than even getting the BMW iX, because you don't have to get a series of a certain amount of points. You just have to do an event lab race, which is easy enough. It takes like 5 minutes or so, and then this car is all yours. So yeah, get out there and get it if you haven't already, but if you have, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.